This small website right here might have the best SEO strategy of all time. But here's the really interesting thing. I know this SEO strategy works because it was replicated on 2 other websites in completely different niches. These websites are all using the same intro, the same tables, the same style of content, but are in completely different niches. That's babygearlab.com, outdoorgearlab.com, and techgearlab.com. 3 sites you've probably never heard of before, but have been on a consistent upward SEO growth track since 2013. That's over 10 years of SEO success, outranking giants like Forbes, CNET, and the New York Times. And get this, all 3 are made up of 90% plus commercial content. If there was ever an SEO strategy worth studying, it's this one. So how are these 3 sites doing so well? And how can you steal what they're doing to achieve similar rankings and get more traffic? After researching, there's a clear 3-step SEO formula they use I want to share with you. But first, in order to understand how they get these results, we need to take a look at the creators. These websites were co-founded by 2 avid outdoor enthusiasts, Chris McNamara and RJ Spurrier. The more I researched, the more I realized they aren't genius marketers or world-class SEOs. They're just regular guys who like the outdoors. Let me explain. You see, their SEO journey started in 1999 when they co-founded a climbing forum called supertopo.com. It was the go-to on all things climbing, attracting thousands of members and some of the biggest names of the industry. Eventually, they added a section of the website where they publish reviews on gear they'd use for their climbs. Fast forward to 2011, the review section of the forum got so popular, Chris wanted to put it on its own website to attract a broader audience. And this is how Outdoor Gear Lab, the first GearLab site, was born. And if you look at the domain registration dates, Baby Gear Lab was registered just 2 days before Outdoor Gear Lab, so both sites were started around the same time. Then, in 2013, after seeing some success with the first 2 sites, they registered techgearlab.com, branching now into tech reviews too. Chris and RJ would eventually shut down supertopo.com in 2019 to focus 100% on their GearLab websites. So what do these guys know about SEO the rest of us are missing? What has Chris and RJ been doing since 2011 to find SEO success with not 1, not 2, but 3 websites? Is it luck, or is there something else going on here? And that brings me to step 1 in Chris and RJ's GearLab SEO formula, something they do so well and is hiding in plain sight. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Chris and RJ have perfected their blog introductions. But while that sounds simple, getting an intro right is often overlooked by most bloggers and SEOs. In fact, there's 3 key things Chris and RJ do in their intros with each of their GearLab sites that set them apart. Let's break down the page Best Baby Carrier on babygearlab.com as an example. Currently, Baby Gear Lab ranks number 3 for best baby carrier, above more authoritative players like babylist.com and whattoexpect.com. I want to bring your attention to the first section here, because this is where Baby Gear Lab sinks the hook in a user. You see, one of the most important concepts in all of marketing is the hook. Whether it's TV, email, YouTube, podcast, a blog, whatever, you need a good hook to get people to stop what they're doing and listen to you. A good hook piques curiosity and stimulates intrigue. The same is true for SEO and blogging. The 2 most common hook types you're probably going to see are either asking a compelling question or making a bold statement. Going back to the example, this intro actually does both. Here you can see they open up the article with a question. Want the best baby carrier for wearing your baby? Not the most compelling hook, but it still serves its purpose because they follow up the question hook with not 1, not 2, but 3 bold statement hooks. We researched more than 32 products before selecting the 16 top contenders. These statements build intrigue and curiosity, but also establish credibility and trust with the reader. And here's where things get really interesting, because if you zoom out, this entire section comes together to form a unique selling point, or USP. Looking at a site in the same niche who hasn't fared quite as well, babygaga.com, they went from as much as 350K organic traffic now down to like 25K. And you can see how generic and lackluster their intro is. You have to understand, at the end of the day, an article is a product like anything else. A product you have to convince a reader to spend their attention on. Said differently, think of the search results as shelf space in a store, and think of the intro or unique selling point like product packaging. If you rank well, you have good shelf space in the store. And as people browse the aisles, aka the search results, your intro is the product packaging needed to catch a reader's attention. Which brings me to the second part of the perfect blog intro, the related links. To an untrained eye, this may seem like they just threw those links in there, but if you look closer, there is a strategy here. For example, users looking for baby carriers are also probably interested in products to travel with their baby, like backpack carriers or strollers. These links give those readers more pathways to go deeper into the site. Readers going deeper into the site leads to higher dwell time, more engagement, better rankings, and eventually more traffic. And then the third and final piece of the intro is the editor's note. Again, a seemingly innocuous addition, but it serves a key role. It communicates to the user that this piece is being actively updated and maintained with specifics around what they added or what the last update was all about. This is similar to how developers release updates with patch notes, calling out exactly what's been updated and when. As a user, you are reassured that the information you're reading is up to date and not stale. Most websites rely on the updated date near the beginning of the post, but the GearLab sites call it out specifically in a dedicated section. So to recap the first step in their SEO formula, that's the unique selling point, related links, and an editor's note to make the perfect blog intro. And if you had any doubts, every single article in the GearLab portfolio uses the same intro structure. Then as soon as you exit the intro, you're greeted with this data-rich, intuitively constructed table of products. It's not the sexiest design I've ever seen, but it doesn't have to be, because it's extremely effective at conveying lots of information in a digestible way. But here's where I want to bring your attention. If you look closely at the rating category section of the table, you'll see the criteria reviewed. If we scroll back up, these same criteria are called out in the intro, which brings me to step 2 in Chris and RJ's GearLab SEO formula: cohesive user experience. You see, in the intro of the best baby carrier page, the author mentions the review covers things like baby's comfort, parents' comfort, ease of use, and ease of cleaning. They list those exact criteria in the comparison table after the intro, and then again as you scroll in the product review sections. And if you click into each individual product review, you see the same criteria list again on the following pages. But there's even more to it than that. If you scroll to the top of the article, there's a dedicated how we test page that explains these 4 review criteria in even more detail. Every single article in the GearLab portfolio has the same pattern. The article structure, placement of images, the tables, the charts, all the way down to even their badges they use are all consistent from post to post. This is cohesive content. Most bloggers and SEOs do not have cohesive content. But why does any of this even matter? Why go through the effort? Does Google even care about this stuff? Well, yes and no. Here's what I mean. Cohesive content patterns make it easy for readers to navigate your site, which leads to more page visits per session, engagement, and repeat visitors. Repeat visitors know exactly what they're getting when Baby GearLab publishes an article because every article is structured the same. But the GearLab article structure also serves a different purpose, something you might miss at first glance. Because of this structure, the GearLab sites often bring very unique perspectives in their content. And there's a word for this in SEO, something that has been in Google's algorithm since 2018, but has become more important in the age of AI content, and that's information gain. Which brings me to the third step in Chris and RJ's GearLab SEO formula, how they use information gain to improve their rank and compete with big sites. But first, what is information gain and how does it affect search rankings? To answer that question, you have to put yourself in Google's shoes. You see, Google has a problem right now. There's just too much sameness in the search results. Between AI content generators and the rise of page optimization tools like ClearScope, Surfer, and Page Optimizer Pro, most sites are generally talking about the same thing for each topic they write on. If a user reads one article in the search result, they're essentially reading them all, which gives users less reason to use Google. To combat this, Google published a patent in April 2020 that rewards content it deems to be bringing new information to the table. So if you're one of the sites saying the same thing on a topic, chances are you're going to lose to more authoritative sites, or worse, not rank at all anymore. Here's a simple example. Imagine there's 5 articles with the exact same steps explaining how to make bread, but one article mentions how to make the bread fluffier and what to do if it doesn't rise. All else being equal, this article would score higher and rank better in Google because it adds new information and a new perspective. And that's how Baby GearLab and the rest of the GearLab sites stay ahead of the curve right now. Each GearLab site defines a review criteria for each type of product, and then they write the reviews based on the findings from first-hand test results. This translates into new and unique perspectives no other site has. To be clear, I don't think you need to buy and test products like the GearLab team to do well with information gain. Rather, you just need to bring a unique and fresh perspective when writing content. Doing first-hand tests is just one way to accomplish this. An example of this from my own past is when I had my pest control site, I talked about pesticides when nobody else was talking about pesticides when doing my product reviews. Everybody else was just focusing on the specifics around the products, but I focused on how the pesticides in the products would affect the homeowner, their pets, their children, and that did really well for my old sites. Given Chris and RJ's background running the Super Topo forum for 20 years, they have a sense for how to write content that people actually want to read. Here's an example from their best baby carrier page. In our tests, little testers were happiest in options with the most adjustability for size and carriers with softer and somewhat stretchy fabric that allows for natural body postures without sacrificing support. Again, to an untrained eye, this is a seemingly innocuous throwaway sentence, but is actually checking the box on information gain. Why? Because through their firsthand testing, they're adding new knowledge around baby carriers, making connections not previously made by any other article in the search results for this keyword. And then they connect the dots for the reader in the very next sentence. These preferences mean the slings have an advantage over structured carriers. Because of their structure, the GearLab sites are built to tease out unique perspectives like this. And you know who else does information gain really well? Naplab.com. And it's the next video you should watch. Naplab is not related to the GearLab trio of sites, but it is a very interesting small mattress review site competing for some of the most competitive keywords on the planet. Make sure to like and subscribe this video, and I'll see you in the next one.